The Nazca Desert of Peru, a land of ancient secrets and sun-baked silence. It stretches endlessly beneath an unforgiving sky, a barren, wind-swept plain that seems devoid of life, yet teems with echoes of a forgotten world. Here, time feels different. The wind doesn't just whistle, it whispers. It whispers of a past not yet fully unearthed, of a civilization that may have known more than we dare imagine, and of something not of this earth. For centuries, the desert has held a mystery, carved not into stone, but into the very earth itself. Geoglyphs. Massive lines stretching across the landscape. Hummingbirds, monkeys, spiders, and abstract patterns, so immense they can only be seen from the sky. These are the famed Nazca lines, created over 1,500 years ago by hands long turned to dust. No one knows why they were made. No one knows how. But now, something new has been found, and it could change everything. It didn't begin in a lab or an observatory. It began with a man, an explorer with no grand titles or government funding. Just a camera, worn boots, and a hunger for the truth. His name is intentionally left anonymous, for reasons you'll soon understand. But his journey started where few dare to go, deep into the uncharted regions beyond the tourist trails of Nazca. He wasn't looking for aliens. He wasn't chasing treasure. He was chasing silence, the kind only the desert can offer. But the desert, it seems, had something to say. It started with a glint, just a shimmer of sunlight reflecting off stone in a place where nothing should shimmer. He approached, brushed away the dust. Beneath centuries of wind and debris, he found an opening, an ancient crevice hidden between jagged boulders, a passage carved not by nature, but by human or something else. With no signal, no backup, and only the camera light to guide him, he descended into the darkness. What he found would ignite a global firestorm. The passage led into a chamber, cool, silent, untouched, and then he saw it. On a raised stone platform, framed by strange, spiraling symbols, lay a figure, small, fragile. Pale gray skin stretched tightly over an unnaturally elongated skull. Its eyes, if they were ever eyes, were oversized, almond-shaped, pitch black. Lifeless, yet unsettlingly alert. It wasn't human, not by any standard science recognizes. Beside it lay golden artifacts carved with markings never before catalogued. Some were geometric, spirals and lattices. Others bore striking similarities to the Nazca lines above. A spider, a condor, a strange spiral matching the layout of a glyph known as the astronaut. He documented everything, slowly, carefully. Each breath in the cavern felt sacred, like he was trespassing on something ancient and divine, or forbidden. He didn't touch the body, but he saw enough to know. This wasn't a hoax. This wasn't stitched together bone. This was a complete being, and it wasn't alone. Deeper inside, he found other chambers, other remains, all sharing the same unnatural features. 3 fingers, no ears, light, hollow bones, internal organs that appeared fossilized, yet unfamiliar. The camera footage would later be analyzed by dozens, viewed by millions, and debated by scientists, skeptics, and believers alike. But it wasn't just the discovery itself that raised eyebrows. It was the timing. Because just 7 days later, over 3,000 miles away, the halls of the Mexican Congress would erupt in a spectacle that stunned the world. In Mexico City, journalist and longtime UFO investigator Jaime Maussan stepped into the public spotlight once more. Before television cameras and members of Congress, He unveiled two glass-encased bodies, carefully laid in wooden coffins. Two mummified figures, eerily similar to those found in the Nazca cave. He claimed they were ancient, over 1,000 years old, not human, not part of Earth's evolutionary history. His words sent shockwaves across media outlets and social platforms. Some scoffed, others were captivated. The mummies, one larger, one smaller, bore the same skeletal features reported by the Peruvian explorer. CT scans, presented during the session, claimed no evidence of tampering, no amalgamation of bones. The radiologists present insisted these were complete, singular life forms. And then quietly, Mosan dropped another detail. The bodies, he said, came from a cave in Peru, near Nazca. The connection couldn't be ignored. Within hours, experts began weighing in. Paleontologists dismissed the remains as dolls made from human and animal parts. Anthropologists pointed to Mosan's controversial history. Others warned of scientific theatrics. But something was different this time. Because unlike previous claims, the evidence was aligning. Back in Peru, the original explorer released full video documentation of his discovery. He remained anonymous, but his footage matched the Mexican specimens in startling detail. Same environment, same burial position, same artifacts. And then, silence. The Peruvian government refused to comment. Mosan claimed he had pleaded with Peru's Ministry of Culture to investigate. He was ignored. When journalists reached out to NASA, they too received no reply, except for one odd development. A private contractor, allegedly affiliated with NASA, expressed interest in conducting DNA analysis on the remains. Mosan wouldn't name them. He said only this: they're watching. They're very interested, but they won't go public until they have undeniable proof. What proof? And why the secrecy? Now, a shadow looms over the entire narrative, one that stretches back thousands of years, and possibly beyond Earth itself. The Nazca lines, those impossibly perfect geoglyphs, could they be more than art? Could they be markers, messages, landing codes? Some believe they are. Proponents of the ancient astronaut theory argue that such immense structures, made with such precision, could not have been constructed without aerial guidance. And if that's true, who were the architects? Mainstream science has always dismissed this theory as fringe pseudo-archaeology. But the lines themselves remain unexplained. You cannot see them from ground level, and yet they stretch perfectly across miles of desert, their curves precise, their scale breathtaking. One glyph, in particular, fuels the fire. The astronaut. A human-like figure with what appears to be a helmet and raised hand. Was it meant to be seen from the stars? Or was it meant to call something back? But what if all of this, the mummified figures, the symbols, the Nazca lines, wasn't just a coincidental string of discoveries? What if it's a pattern? What if it's a message? One man believes it is, and he's no ordinary believer. His name is John Ramirez, a former officer with the Central Intelligence Agency, not a conspiracy theorist, not a YouTuber. A man trained to decode threats, analyze foreign systems, and deliver information to the upper echelons of the U.S. government. But when he speaks, it's not about earthly threats. It's about something else. Something not of this planet. Ramirez has made an unsettling claim that we are not alone, that there are three types of beings currently known to the intelligence community. The first he calls residents, entities that have lived on Earth longer than humans, possibly beneath our oceans, in remote regions, or in dimensions our senses cannot yet perceive. The second group are visitors, extraterrestrial travelers, arriving in craft we have labeled as UAPs. Ramirez suggests they come and go, observing, sometimes interfering, often silently. But the third group, he says, are called strangers, beings whose origins, intentions, and even physics are beyond anything our species can categorize. Not interplanetary, not interdimensional, possibly something far worse, something ancient, something unknowable. Ramirez believes that by 2027, these beings will make themselves known, openly, unambiguously. And governments around the world are preparing for this, quietly, systematically. His statements, though controversial, are gaining traction, especially when viewed through the lens of recent global events. The Mexican mummies, the Nazca chamber, the sudden increase in military UAP disclosures, and the strange silence of institutions that once mocked such claims. It's as if the world is being nudged, slowly, toward accepting a new truth. But why 2027? Some researchers point to ancient calendars, like the Hopi, the Sumerian, or the Aztec. Others link it to upcoming solar alignments or mathematical cycles buried in sacred architecture. But Ramirez offers no mysticism. He says it plainly. There is a timeline, he claims, and someone is keeping to it. The deeper we look, the more uncomfortable the questions become. Take the Nazca mummies. If even one of those specimens is proven to be genuine, biologically unique, not human, and not a hoax, it would upend every academic field overnight. Anthropology would fracture. The theory of human evolution would no longer be linear. Religious doctrine across faiths would face theological crises, and every textbook, every classroom, every museum would have to be rewritten. The stakes are almost too large to comprehend, which is perhaps why many scientists refuse to even try. Enter Neil deGrasse Tyson, a voice millions trust, calm, rational, methodical. Tyson has spent his career promoting scientific literacy, and when it comes to aliens, he doesn't mince words. I would be surprised, he says, if life didn't exist elsewhere in the universe. But surprise is not the same as proof. To Tyson, the evidence so far is weak. Blurry videos, anecdotal sightings, tic-tac shapes with no depth or clarity. He argues that with our powerful telescopes, our satellite imaging, our radar systems, we should have better data by now. Solid, repeatable, peer-reviewed. Until then, he remains unconvinced, but not everyone agrees. In stark contrast stands Avi Loeb, Harvard astrophysicist, former head of the astronomy department, and a man on a mission. Literally. Loeb has launched the Galileo Project, an initiative aimed at collecting real, physical evidence of non-human artifacts on Earth and in our skies. While Tyson demands better footage, Loeb is out collecting it. He's currently leading a recovery operation in the Pacific Ocean, searching for what he believes is a fragment of an interstellar object, possibly artificial, that impacted Earth years ago. Its origin, speed, and trajectory suggest it may not be from our solar system at all. To Loeb, the scientific community's resistance isn't skepticism, it's fear. Science, he says, isn't about belief, it's about data, and we're not even trying. His frustration echoes in universities and observatories worldwide, where many scientists quietly admit they've seen things they can't explain, but fear ridicule for speaking out. And in that silence, others are stepping forward. One of them is David Grush, a decorated Air Force veteran and former intelligence officer. In a historic move, he testified under oath before the U.S. Congress, alleging that the American government is in possession of non-human craft, and even biological material. His claims are not vague. They are detailed, they are alarming, and they are, according to him, backed by witnesses, documents, and classified programs. But here's where it gets darker. Following his testimony, Grush and investigative journalist Ross Coulthart warned the public the intelligence community would retaliate, not with violence, but with discrediting. What followed was exactly that. Whispers of mental health issues, dismissive headlines, insinuations of delusion. No solid debunking, just the slow grind of credibility erosion. If Grush is lying, why not charge him? If he's telling the truth, what else is being hidden? Now connect the dots. The Nazca discovery, unverified yet oddly consistent with multiple global reports. The Mexican mummies, dismissed by many, but documented by CT scans, DNA, and pathology reports. The silence from Peru's Ministry of Culture. The mystery NASA contractor. The sudden wave of controlled disclosures by military agencies, and a 2027 deadline, quietly looming on the horizon. It's no longer about whether aliens exist. It's about why this is happening now. Perhaps the most haunting aspect of this entire mystery is not the science, not the secrecy, it's the philosophy. What happens to the human psyche when we are no longer alone? What happens to our religions, our cultures, our sense of destiny? For centuries, we believed we were the apex of creation, that Earth was a cradle, that humanity was central to the cosmic story. But what if we're not? What if we're just one page in a much older book? Religious scholars have quietly begun to debate the implications. Would alien life disprove creation, or simply expand its scope? In Islam, the Quran speaks of other creations, jinn, beings of smokeless fire, whose existence lies beyond the perception of man. Could ancient texts, from all faiths, have been interpreting encounters the only way they knew how? And if extraterrestrial beings do exist, are they peaceful, or are they simply patient? Because patience is the weapon of the timeless. The footage ends abruptly, a single frame, dust rising, a hand reaching out, then blackness. That was the last anyone saw of the anonymous explorer. His identity never revealed. His voice never recorded. Only the footage remained, shared online under a pseudonym, and quickly mirrored across dark web forums, encrypted cloud archives, and private drives around the world. At first, no one noticed the subtle signs. The gloved hands in the footage never trembled, not once. The air in the cave didn't stir, even as he moved. And strangest of all, when his camera swept across the chamber walls, there were carvings, symbols. They looked almost familiar. Weeks later, an archaeologist working with a Peruvian preservation project reviewed the footage. She paused at one specific frame, enlarged it, and froze. It was a carving of a creature, short, thin-limbed, three-fingered, almond-eyed, nearly identical to the mummified figures presented in Mexico. But what caught her breath was the shape etched beneath it. A spiral intersected by 5 precise lines. To most, it meant nothing, but to her it was unmistakable. She had seen that exact spiral once before, in a cave thousands of miles away, in Turkey, beneath the ruins of Göbekli Tepe, the oldest known temple on Earth. She quietly contacted a handful of trusted colleagues, one in Egypt, one in Iraq, another in Japan. Each of them had seen it too, the same spiral, in temples, tombs, mountain caves, always buried, always forgotten, always in places where ancient knowledge once flourished, then vanished. The implications were dizzying. This wasn't an isolated mystery. It was a pattern, a network. Back in Nazca, whispers began to circulate among the local Quechua elders. They spoke of El Silencioso, the Silent One, a spirit being, neither god nor man, who visited their ancestors in dreams. He was said to come from beneath the sand, not the sky. He would appear when the stars aligned just so, when the eye of the condor blinked in the southern sky. Some dismissed the tale as folklore, a myth from pre-colonial oral traditions. But then an elder showed something remarkable, an obsidian disc handed down for generations. On its surface, the same spiral, same 5 intersecting lines, inlaid with faint traces of gold. It is not a symbol, he said. It is a door. A door to what, or where? He did not say. Across the world, in Mexico City, Jaime Maussan was facing a media onslaught. Scientists labeled him a hoaxer. Government officials kept their distance. He was accused of exploiting corpses, misrepresenting scans, and chasing relevance. And yet, the scans held up. Independent radiologists who reviewed the material admitted they couldn't explain the bone structures. The hands, the skulls, the vertebrae. They didn't match any known species. Critics countered that they might be carefully crafted fakes. But if they were fakes, where were the seams, the adhesives, the genetic mismatches? Even the alleged forensic inconsistencies failed to offer closure. Everything about the bodies felt too deliberate, too clean, as if someone or something had gone to great lengths to preserve them not for science, but for timing. In a leaked private message, a whistleblower from within a South American military unit claimed that there had been more than one Nazca cave, that the chamber filmed by the explorer was only the surface-level tomb, a ceremonial entrance. The real structure, he claimed, lay much deeper, sealed behind a wall of calcified stone. According to his report, seismic scans picked up hollow structures beneath the terrain, not natural caves, structured rooms, perfectly rectangular, aligned with magnetic north. But when excavation began, nothing was found. No chamber, no stone, just an empty, collapsed void, as if something had moved or vanished. Theories exploded. Some believed the mummies were not dead, but in stasis. Others claimed the Nazca beings were biosynthetic probes left behind by a distant intelligence, a kind of galactic archaeology, studying us, watching, waiting. Still, others whispered of the silent protocol, an unspoken agreement between ancient civilizations and forces beyond human comprehension, a pact sealed by symbols, by spirals, by sacrifice, and always, always beneath the earth. And then came the Vatican leak. A Jesuit priest, writing under anonymity, published a document allegedly dating back to 1769, long before any Nazca excavation. The document, translated from Latin, referred to the fallen stones of the Condor lands and described beings without sin, made in the first light, who walk neither in heaven nor on earth. The Jesuits had, according to the text, sent a silent team to Peru after hearing rumors of celestial idols buried in black stone. Whether the document was real remains unproven. But the mention of silent teams echoed other reports, from whistleblowers, retired archaeologists, even former military intelligence officers. Someone, somewhere, had known, and had tried to erase the evidence. So where does that leave us? One explorer, gone, two bodies, publicly revealed, scientifically controversial. A global pattern, spirals, lines, carvings, all pointing to a buried legacy. And a date, 2027, looming like a shadow on the horizon. And still, one final detail remains. Buried in the metadata of the original explorer's footage, investigators found a corrupted file, one that couldn't be opened by traditional means. For weeks, it sat untouched. Then a cyber forensics group in Berlin managed to decrypt a single fragment. It was a still image. Not of the mummy, not of the cave. It was a satellite map, marked with glowing coordinates. A mountain range far from Nazca, high in the Andes. A red pin hovered above a location known only in legend. Locals called it La Puerta del Silencio, the door of silence, a place where compasses fail, where radio signals vanish, where no one returns. And beneath the red pin, the same spiral, burned into the terrain itself, visible only from space. The desert quiet stretched endlessly, broken only by the occasional wind brushing over sand-carved ridges. But beneath this silence lay a cacophony of whispers, rumors so old they might as well have been buried alongside the mummies themselves. Back in Cusco, where the Vatican delegation had quietly withdrawn, an anonymous document began making the rounds in the academic underground. A leaked communiqué between two senior Jesuits, written in Latin, alluded to bioanomalies discovered in South America, echoing the secrets of the Roman vaults. The Vatican never acknowledged the leak, but it was enough to stir the sleeping giants. Within weeks, high-ranking officials from the Smithsonian Institution flew into Lima. No press, no announcements. Their arrival was shrouded in the kind of logistical secrecy usually reserved for nuclear negotiations. An encrypted email intercepted by a Peruvian activist group confirmed what many feared. The specimens were being considered for secure international transport under Clause E-17, exobiological risk handling. In simpler words, quarantine and control. Meanwhile, the Mexican journalist who first revealed the mummy's X-rays went missing. His last message, posted to a secure blog at 2:12 a.m., read only, "I've seen something that isn't supposed to exist. Not from Earth. If this post is deleted, I didn't do it." It was removed less than 36 hours later. No trace of him has been found since. A secret beneath the sand. While the global response seemed surgical and precise, local whispers kept growing louder. In Nazca itself, an elder named Camila Yupanqui came forward, hesitantly. Her family had been caretakers of a pre-Incan temple site, unregistered and deeply hidden, passed down through generations of oral tradition. She claimed the temple was aligned with the sky people, and that its inner chamber was only to be opened in times of great imbalance between Earth and the heavens. The location had no GPS coordinates. It wasn't on any archaeological map. But when an independent crew followed her into the desert, far beyond the etched lines, they found something that couldn't be explained by erosion or time. A monolithic slab of dark basalt protruding from the sand. Perfectly smooth, untouched by time. The slab wasn't a structure, though. It was a door, or at least it appeared to be, until night fell. Under the moonlight, ancient glyphs began to shimmer across its surface, visible only in infrared. A Peruvian physicist scanned the symbols and found patterns mathematically identical to the Fibonacci sequence, golden ratios, and, most chilling of all, stellar alignments only visible 6,000 years ago. In short, the door was not made for us, and it hadn't been opened in millennia. The chamber that time forgot. With local shamans chanting softly behind them, the team opened the slab using an internal mechanism involving pressure plates and rhythmic vibrations. What they found beneath the earth shattered any semblance of normalcy left in this investigation. A vast subterranean chamber carved in obsidian and lined with luminescent minerals. At the center stood a stone pedestal upon which rested something never seen before in human history. A metallic sphere, hovering mid-air, emitting low-frequency pulses that disrupted camera equipment, GPS, and even human thought. Several researchers reported hearing whispering voices in no known language, but sharing the same message. We were here long before you. Along the walls were mural-like carvings, not of animals or men, but of beings with long limbs, bulbous heads, and wide, hollow eyes. Some bore unsettling resemblance to the Nazca mummies, and there, beneath the floating sphere, was a cradle, and inside it, something wrapped in the same unknown resin found on the earlier specimens. It wasn't fossilized, it was alive. At least, it was breathing, barely. The fifth being. The discovery, if verified, would mark the first time in recorded history that a non-human, non-Earth origin life form was found in a state of suspended animation. But before any international team could arrive to authenticate the find, the site was sealed shut. Not by the government, not by looters, by someone far more powerful. Black helicopters circled above the Nazca lines the very next day. Satellite feeds to the region were scrambled. All digital records from the team's devices were erased simultaneously. Camila Yupanqui vanished. Her family compound was burned to the ground, officially blamed on faulty gas lines. The local tribe that had kept the temple secret, they relocated deep into the Andes. When contacted, they offered only one cryptic statement. The Sky Watchers have returned. The Guardians must sleep again. But what if they never left? What if the mummies weren't dead at all? What if they were sentinels, biological receivers waiting for a trigger? What if the Nazca lines weren't art, but a map? Or worse, a signal? In recent months, strange electromagnetic pulses have been detected near Nazca at regular intervals. They mirror the patterns found carved into the chamber walls, pulses that interfere with aircraft, satellites, and even underground mining equipment. Some believe it's just tectonic activity. Others whisper of activation, of an ancient mechanism slowly waking up. One thing is certain. There are truths buried in this desert that the world may never be ready to accept. But the question that haunts every researcher, journalist, and watcher still following the trail is this. If these beings were here long before us, who brought them? And more importantly, why did they leave one behind? So what do you believe? Was the Nazca Desert merely a burial ground for ancient anomalies? Or are we looking at a sliver of something far greater, a history erased, rewritten, and buried again? Let us know in the comments. And remember, some doors were never meant to be opened, but once they are, they never close. This is Nexora, where mysteries remain unsolved.